Hey everyone, Happy Dude here. Now everything is getting more and more expensive. Electronics, food, and now fuel also because of the war that's going on right now. I mean, come on, look at these prices. More than 2.2 euro for a liter of diesel. These prices just exploded and went straight to the moon. So I'm going to give you some tips how to drive more efficient and save fuel. The most important tip that I can give you is make sure that your tires have the right pressure. You can find it in the door or on the gaslit. For my car, for normal driving, it's 2.2 in the front and the rear. When it's loaded, 2.4 bar in the front and 2.9 in the rear. It's not loaded, so I'm not going to do that, because if your tire pressure is too high, it's actually quite dangerous to drive it in the rain. You could go a little higher than what's recommended, so I'm going to put 2.5 bar in them. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Also, something very important to note is keep your engine well maintained. So give it some fresh fluids. And while you're at it, throw some new filters in there. A healthy engine can give you more optimal performance and therefore more fuel efficiency. The most important tip is also the most logical. Just don't drive the car and throw away the keys. And try to take your bike once in a while. Okay, let's get serious now. I will show you how you need to drive to save fuel. I'm going to do this video with a manual because you can't do much with an automatic, except don't use the brakes that much and just keep the car rolling. And the same applies to a manual, except you have the control of the gear changes, and if you do it right, you can save a lot more fuel with a manual than an automatic. So if you have a manual, you will have 3 pedals, and the trick is not to use those pedals, because every time you use the clutch, you will use extra fuel, because the clutch is like a reversed brake. Braking will slow the car down, so you will have to accelerate again and therefore use more fuel. And of course, the throttle itself, don't use the throttle like you're trying to crush a spider, but use it with absolute delicacy. And please stop doing gear changes all the time. You're not making soup, you're driving a car. So pick a gear and stay with it as long as you can. Okay, next tip. I hope you guys have cruise control, because you will have to use this all the time. This is more accurate than your foot, so just use it all the time. Something else that is also very handy is the dashboard computer. So press the buttons until you see your fuel consumption. But not this one, because this is the average. You have to find the actual fuel consumption right here. Now the trick to a good fuel consumption is to keep the speed as high as possible you're allowed to, and to keep the RPM as low as possible. But keep it between 1500 and 2000 RPM. If you go lower than that, then the engine has to struggle to get along, so you will use more fuel. And if you go higher, you will also have more fuel consumption. And you do all of that while you are trying to keep the car in the same gear as much as possible. Because every time you use the clutch, you have extra fuel consumption. Okay, we're on a private road, so now I can show you this. This is why you have to keep the car rolling and always in gear. Because if you release the throttle, your fuel consumption will go to zero. And if I put the car in neutral, we're still rolling, your fuel consumption will go up. And don't forget, once you're up to speed, use your cruise control. Okay, what's also a problem, and almost everybody is doing it, is they drive way too closely to each other. And that's dangerous, and also every time he brakes, you have to brake. But if you keep your distance, you can simply release the throttle. So that's way more efficient. Unless he completely stops, of course. Oh, and don't stop or slow down for pedestrians. They have legs, they can run. We're on a mission here. We are trying to save fuel. It's a joke, of course. Don't run them over. Starting up the car from a standstill uses the most fuel. So you have to avoid that. Okay, it's red, so I'm going to change back to Ford. You see, that car keeps on accelerating and uses his brakes. So he has to stop. I just keep the car rolling, and as you can see, we did not stop. And there's a big chance that you're gonna catch up the car that was in front of you. And all of that without changing all the gears and using less fuel. Okay, we are now coming up to a roundabout. Try to avoid the braking and time it so you don't have a car in front of you. I'm going to third. You see, he's going to the roundabout, and after that it's safe to go up. And all of that in third gear. So, not only are you saving fuel, but also time and your clutch. So in the city it's very hard to drive economically, but on the freeway, that's where it all happens. Remember, keep the speed as high as possible. I'm in fourth gear. And most people only accelerate at the end of the driveway to the freeway, but you have to do it in the curve. I'm now going into fifth gear, and we are safe to go onto the right lane. Okay, now you have to find out at which RPM your car is most economically. So I only have 5 gears, and it's different for every car. So with my car, it's 100 kilometers an hour. Then the car will use 4 liters to drive 100 kilometers. Now with most cars, it's 90 kilometers an hour. But but for some weird reason in this car it's 100. Now, if you want to save even more fuel, drive behind a van or a big truck. And don't forget about that cruise control. Trucks can only drive 90 kilometers an hour maximum here. So that way you will keep your speed in check, and you will also save some money on speeding tickets. Okay everyone, thanks for watching, and if you have questions or some other tips, please put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you all drive safely. Bye.